Today, South Africa observes a national day of prayer and mourning for the Eastern Cape flood victims. Devastating floods claimed 92 lives, destroyed homes and displaced many. President Cyril Ramaphosa and some members of his cabinet have visited the affected areas, assessing damage and coordinating relief efforts. Rescue teams continue searching for missing people, and international aid is en route to support the rescue missions. Joining us to talk more about this is Provincial Spokesperson, Government Spokesperson, Khuselwa Rantjie. Khuselwa, thank you for joining us. It's good to have you here on the programme.
Good to be here too, Leanne. Good morning to you and the viewers.
Certainly a very sad time for the province and a very difficult time. Let me ask you up front. I know that we had hoped that we would get the Premier for this particular interview, but unfortunately he couldn't be there. Where is he? What is he doing at the moment?
The Premier, Leanne, this morning is busy on some private business, and unfortunately I can't go into detail in terms of that, but he has certainly ensured that he deploys members of his executive council to be here in Mthatha with the people of Mthatha and mourn with them and ensure that as government we continue to stand in solidarity with the people of Mthatha and the rest of the Eastern Cape who have sadly lost loved ones in these devastating floods. And we are also, Leanne, expecting that some members of the National Executive will also join us, but most importantly, the South African Council of Churches and other faith organizations have been in supporting these efforts for government to just ensure that we come closer to those who've lost loved ones, and we give them comfort and we pray with them through this devastating time.
Okay, so in other words, confirmation that he will not be attending this prayer and memorial service, and something that, you know, certainly has devastated the province. We're looking at that death toll rising. We're sitting at 92 now. Those are the numbers. Perhaps you could also confirm that to us, but the Premier won't be there. Do you want to perhaps talk to us about the latest figures of those that have lost their lives?
The latest figures, Leanne, stand at 92 now. Late yesterday, a body of a 17-year-old girl was found along the Mthatha River, and that is where, and we have been finding, or the rescue teams have been discovering bodies in the main when you look at the area of Mthatha. So that puts us to that number, which is 92. And sadly, and we are still receiving from the community members reports that there are still missing people. What we are requesting, though, from community members in the affected areas is that those reports must be formalized with the South African Police Services, so that we have some level of understanding in terms of the number of people who are currently missing, especially those that went missing during that day, that Tuesday of the 10th, when the floods just poured down. So there is that work that continues, obviously, to continue to search for perhaps missing bodies, but we would like that level of certainty in terms of the number of people we may be looking for.
Let's talk about the immediate relief measures that have been implemented and that perhaps are still being implemented to support the flood victims and their families.
Leanne, through the Department of Social Development and SASA, we continue to provide much needed support to those families in terms of, firstly, there are still those that are at the centers, but there are also those that have been now moved to much more comfortable spaces. So the Department of Social Development, as well as SASA, offers food and other essentials to them, but also there have been quite a number of private sector organizations, NGOs, that have been offering that support. The immediate need, Leanne, especially when you look at Mthatha, as we are saying, that part of the risk that we were faced with was the fact that we had people that are living in floodplains. So government continues with engagements with traditional leaders so that there is identification of land to discourage people going back and re-establishing in the areas that are at risk. So that work continues, and also one of the things that we identified was the fact that most of these people have lost their identity documents, and Home Affairs has been on hand in terms of coming into the various centers, re-registering those that have lost their documents, and processes are also underway to just make sure that we try and make this easy for them in terms of what would be required as payments in the event that an individual loses their identity document.
So, Khuselwa, let's talk about these NGOs that are going in to try and work in the area, and we see some reports coming through, and perhaps your reaction to this. I mean, Gift of the Givers on the ground basically saying that they're trying to give out water and distribute whatever they can, free water, to these affected communities. They're approached by a so-called water mafia who are saying that they now require police escorts to go into these areas because they are now trying to hold them ransom. What's going on there?
Leanne, we did receive those reports that there are people that are intimidating Gift of the Givers that are providing much needed resources. We have reported that the area of Mthatha is still struggling as we're trying to get the water treatment works around this area to be back on or in service. So that work still continues, and the Gift of the Givers were then providing water. As government, we have condemned the acts of those that have been trying to disrupt that work from happening, and we will ensure that through the South African Police Services, these reports are investigated, and those that have been found to be behind these acts of intimidation are brought to book.
Yeah, well, one would hope a water mafia, just another mafia to add into what unfortunately is becoming an untenable situation, which certainly we can't afford to have something like this, people stopping water from getting to the communities that need it most, and the NGOs that are tirelessly working, particularly the Gift of the Givers, to try and relieve the situation. I think there's a bigger picture at play here, and as much as the event that happened on that Tuesday was devastating and uncontrollable, there are also a lot of concerns, though, about the adequacy of existing infrastructure and emergency preparedness in the province, that it's just non-existent. Talk to us about this.
Leanne, I think we have, as government, acknowledged that there are some areas that require improvement in terms of provision of resources that will enable us to really speed up our response time when situations like this occur. And even when we met with the Minister of Cooperative Governance, as well as his team from the National Disaster Management Center, there was such an acknowledgement that we need to just go deeper into understanding what the type of resources that we require to respond to the changing weather situation that we are seeing. Because part of what we've noted is that whilst we were, because it's winter, we were thinking that we would be mostly impacted by snow, and our rescue teams were ready for that. I don't think we were ready for the amount of rain that we received, and that was part of the problem. And also, when you look at the size of our province, with most of our resources are located in the metros, that then creates a challenge if you then need to move to these rural towns, especially if the weather is as we experienced in the last week. So there is beyond our response now, and then ensuring that we go back to life as we know it and support these communities to go back to life as we know it. We do need to conduct that assessment, and as government, from all three spheres of government, we look at how we can support each other to make sure that the Eastern Cape broadly and our municipalities are able in the future to respond to challenges of this nature.
All right, we'll leave it there. Eastern Cape Government spokesperson Khuselwa Rantjie speaking to us as South Africa observes the National Day of Prayer and Mourning for the Eastern Cape flood victims. 92 is where that death toll sits at right now. But of course, people still missing at this time, so we'll keep you updated. And today it's a massive focus for our reporters, and after 8 we'll be bringing you those reporter crossings where we highlight some of the stories, and this really is taking centre stage, I should say, because we have a special focus on the devastating floods that ravaged the Eastern Cape this week. Our reporters out and about, Griselda Lewis, Lerato Fikisi and Fundiswe Mhlukude at various sites around the province. Now, the fifth group of soldiers returning from the SADC mission in the DRC is scheduled to land at Brown Fisher International Airport between 3 and 5 this afternoon. Makhala Masiteng is on that story for us. Also, the other big story that we will be watching is that press briefing that was called by the Floyd Shivambu. And we're going to be taking that live. We will bring you comprehensive coverage of that. Still not known what is going to be announced there, but certainly that is another story that will be a massive one this morning.